Hi there, crypto fans. Dick Allgire here in the beautiful Hawaiian Islands. It's a beautiful day where I am. How about you? I need to have a conversation with Tucker Carlson. I would have the most fascinating segment with Tucker. I could talk to him about, well, first of all, the Grateful Dead and scuba diving with Jerry Garcia. He would get a kick out of that, but just touch briefly on that. I would talk to him about the supernatural and how the supernatural is really the natural way of things, and how remote viewing works and what we've done with remote viewing. I'd also talk to him about the administration of the earth, who really runs this place, what's really going on here, and it would tie up some loose ends for Tucker that I know he's been struggling with for a while. And then I would talk to him about technology. Tucker, I'll tell you where we're going, how blockchain is going to change the world, and why it is rather a dark future if you really look into it. Okay, first of all, my name is Dick Allgire. I was a mainstream television newscaster. Don't hold that against me. I was a news reporter back in the day when we had the semblance of objectivity. We didn't insert our own opinions. We were, at least on the surface, you know, I talked to presidents, congressmen, senators, mayors, city council members, neighborhood board, all of the above, many, many, many politicians, and none of them ever knew my politics. They would never guess, because I let them say their thing, and then I got someone else who would argue the other side, and I stayed neutral, which is how it was supposed to be, and it no longer is. Okay, so I could have been a network reporter, but I chose not. I didn't want to go to Los Angeles or New York. I wanted to live in Hawaii. So I chose to be a local news reporter and not earn quite so much money, although I've done pretty well in cryptos now. So I'll be able to afford, if you have me on your segment, Tucker, I'll pay my own way and come talk to you. But I for many years, was a TV reporter. And I met Jerry Garcia here. Now, Tucker, when I found out that you were a deadhead, that just tickled me. I thought that was so perfect. I used to watch you when you were on CNN in a bow tie arguing liberal versus conservative. And I think you would admit that back in those days, you were a little bit smug, a little bit arrogant. But I would watch you on CNN, and little did I know that you'd take off your bow tie and then go to a Dead concert. And undoubtedly, Tucker, you and I attended some of the same Grateful Dead concerts. And what happened there was a manifestation of cosmic consciousness, the existence of a greater consciousness field where humans reside, and we have one foot in that door of the greater consciousness field, but our brain filters it out. And the US military devised a way to train people how to access that consciousness field. Now, remote viewing was put into the public in a way that it would do very little harm. They released a watered down version. It was tied at the hips with ufology, which had its own ongoing psychological warfare operation going against it. So same thing was done to remote viewing. And there have been a number of charlatans, wannabes, people trying to make money, and just scammers, and people that are marginal at best at remote viewing and claiming to be the great lineage. But I could tell you a few stories. First of all, I want to go back to the Grateful Dead for a moment. I was Jerry Garcia's scuba diving buddy. I used to hang out on a boat with him. So Tucker, you know, if you go fishing with someone or go hunting, you know, duck hunting or quail hunting, you're going to get to know the real person. Same with Jerry Garcia and being on a dive boat, because he was in his comfort zone and we would spend all day together. And I took him out privately a few times. He brought my parents to a Dead concert and took us backstage, and my mom and dad got to meet him. You'd like that story. Okay, back to remote viewing and cosmic consciousness. You told Joe Rogan that your quote was, "The supernatural is real." Of course it is. The supernatural is real. We all experience it all the time if we're paying any attention. I wouldn't call it supernatural, though. I would call it the natural world. So the natural state of a human being is to have this subconscious awareness that is in a field where all information and knowledge is available. And everyone's had this experience where you just knew something, or you had a premonition. You hadn't seen a friend in 10 years and you think of them and they call you 5 minutes later. That is a communication, that's an opening of the communication pathway with your subconscious. And I was trained by a guy that was in U.S. Army Special Forces Intelligence, and he trained me for about over 20 years for no money. He wouldn't accept a cent. And I'll tell you his story about how he got involved with it. He was working for the Army Security Agency as a high-speed Morse intercept operator. So he's in the Army. He's working for the intelligence arm of the U.S. military, listening to Soviet-era Morse code signals. And he was in Germany, and he was on the overnight shift. He would work from like 11 to 7 or midnight to 8 or late at night. And one day he went and drank beer at Oktoberfest and ate good food and didn't take a nap and went to, reported to work at the Army Security Agency, at least hungover and maybe a little bit drunk still. And they said, okay, copy this tank battalion from Vladivostok to Moscow. And so he's listening to the Morse code, the beep, 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 beep. And he had a way to oscillate the beat so it was more comfortable. And the guy in Vladivostok didn't copy some transmission and said, please send again. And so my remote viewing teacher was listening, and he drifted off into that little place between being awake and asleep, where like when you're listening to the TV and your dream starts to be what's on the TV. So my guy was listening to the Morse code, and he suddenly saw the Russian keying, in the Russian uniform, keying the Morse code key. And his supervisor saw that he was falling asleep and kicked him and said, wake the F up. And he said, sir, I just saw the Russian. And they said, excuse me? And he goes, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. But he had this little bilocation experience where in this dream state, he saw the Russian in real time. And that was something that the military was actually looking for. They were looking for people who had this experience. So they tagged him right away, took him out for psychological review, sent him to another unit and said, okay, we want you to do that to find Russian spies. And that was the genesis of military remote viewing, one arm of it. And so this guy trained me for 20 years. And I became pretty good at it. I've proven remote viewing 100 times, 200 times. I have a long track record. We do it responsibly. We do it without a lot of fanfare or false claims. We really do it, and it is true, and we can talk about that. So remote viewing got me involved with someone who explained to me how the world really works. So I'll pose this as a question. There is a God that created all this. All this didn't just happen. Like humanity didn't evolve from a single cell, more complex over millions of years. This is a creation. The whole universe is created by the God. But what if there were lesser gods that are below the main creator, the all? What if there were lesser gods that were superior to humans, but were here to act as game wardens or gamekeepers or administrators of this earth? What if this earth was in fact like a botanical garden that somebody created, and this is all just like an experiment or a game, and the gamekeepers and the administrators, who are below God but superior to human beings, are zipping around in these vehicles that we've seen throughout time. And the reason they don't tell us about it or introduce themselves is because they're the gamekeepers, and that's not their job to interact with us. It's to keep the game going on an even keel. And what if technology was not all invented by human beings? What if technology existed on a level of these higher beings, the gamekeepers? And what if it was leaked to humanity little by little to make the game more interesting and advance the game? What if there had been a number of civilizations, that there were a number of games on this planet because it's, they say, 4 billion years old? What if their civilizations rise and the game culminates and it falls again? Where does this mean we're going? You have to look at blockchain distributed ledger technology, because that is going to bring in the next iteration of humanity. And it's going to be used as an administration where everything is going to be on the Internet of Things, on distributed ledger blockchains, where it can be monitored and tabulated and predicted. And all of this will be done in real time using computer technology that they're introducing. And this starts to get a little bit bleak. Tucker, I can tell you some things that would probably, well, your hair is curly. It'll curl your hair. But I know a lot about this, and I do know what I'm talking about, and I've had some very interesting experiences. We could have a real interesting conversation. I could have a good conversation with Joe Rogan, too. I could do an hour with Tucker Carlson just standing on my head with one hand tied behind my back. I could do 3 hours with Joe Rogan, no problem. Tucker, you and I went to the same... I think that's so funny that you were wearing a bow tie on CNN and debating liberals, and then going and having your mind melted by Jerry Garcia at the same concert I was at. And little did we know, it's an interesting world, very, very interesting world we live in. We're enjoying the ride.